In July of 2009, thousands of mourners flocked to Michael Jackson's memorial service, and the rest of the world looked on through tears. Not only had an American icon passed, but so had an era. And with it, a generation reflected on the man, his music, and all the eccentricities of a creative genius. There was the media circus and the real one. At the height of Michael's popularity, a young chimpanzee named Bubbles was one of his closest and most trusted companions.
Bubbles became a human. He became one of us.
Bubbles wore designer clothes, flew first class, and made appearances on TV talk shows.
You like heavy metal music?
Bubbles rocked the world's media and even learned how to moonwalk.
Man with best friend as a monkey. So Michael would have thought, right, okay.
You want a weirdo? I'll give you weird. I can do weird. You want weird?
What may have appeared unusual to most was completely natural to the king of pop. Michael turned to animals for comfort and unconditional love.
These animals understand me. You don't. It was as simple as that. These are my friends, not you.
But all of Michael's fame and riches still couldn't defy the laws of nature. Bubbles would eventually grow up. What has become of the most famous chimpanzee in the world? Michael Jackson's younger sister, LaToya, is on her way to an emotional reunion after 20 years. She's looking for closure after her brother's death.
I've said over and over to Michael before he passed, of course, I wonder what Bubbles is like now. I wonder what he's doing. Has he changed drastically, or is he the same? But I would love to see him and see.
Michael Jackson's life was extraordinary, the greatest entertainer the world has ever seen, and the biggest global artist of all time. But there was a price to pay for being the king of pop. Along with all the desired accoutrements of stardom, sometimes comes a steep bill, the scrutiny, the judgment, and in the case of Michael Jackson, often the ridicule. Adoring fans could only offer love from the distance. What Michael may have really wanted was a friend who could love him unconditionally.
He loved animals, and he would speak to them and talk to them and as if they were his best friend.
Michael formed bonds with all his animals, but he was especially close to Bubbles.
Michael would have become a surrogate mother to Bubbles. He would have been able to form a very meaningful, intense, physical relationship with Bubbles.
For a long period of time, Michael and Bubbles were inseparable, both in public and in private. Their lives seemed to mirror each other's. But as a kitten becomes a cat, and a puppy a dog, a chimpanzee grows into an adult. As Michael's life changed, so did his relationship with Bubbles, and the world's most famous chimpanzee quietly disappeared from Michael's scene. For 20 years, Bubbles' fate remained a mystery, until now.
You guys just don't know the love that we all had for Bubbles, and especially Michael.
Michael Jackson always loved animals. In fact, the whole Jackson family did. Michael's sister LaToya spent many years living in the bedroom next door to him and Bubbles in their family home.
My father loved dogs. We had a dog named Frisky. We had so many pets growing up, dogs, and my father loved cats, and just so many different animals around the house. And it's so funny because he had this love for animals, and my mother didn't care for it at all.
The Jackson parents, Joseph and Catherine, had 9 children. Joseph knew his kids were talented, and he's long acknowledged with pride how he rehearsed them relentlessly.
His father said to him, "Don't call me Daddy, don't call me Dad. It's Joseph to you." And so any child, I think, who has that kind of a strained relationship with their father, has to relate to their father more like a manager or business manager than as a parent, I think would have difficulties growing up and sort of understanding what love was and being able to navigate relationships when there was so much torment in some of his personal relationships.
I decided to deal with the boys as much as I possibly can as far as rehearsing them, getting them prepared to be in show business.
Did they resent it?
Yes.
They did?
Yes.
My father started rehearsing every day after school. Other kids would be outside playing, and they would tease us, oh, you're doing this, you're not going to get nowhere, you're not going to... But we just rehearsed every day.
The type of love that came from his father was a very dominating one, and at times cruel.
He practiced us with a belt in his hand. And if you didn't do it the right way, he would tear you up, really get you. I don't think he realizes to this day how scared, I mean scared, so scared that I would regurgitate.
When someone has been hurt by human beings to such a degree that they are so scarred that they have a difficult time forming relationships with others, or even wanting to attempt forming new relationships for fear of being harmed, animals are really a nice alternative.
When a child wants a pet, it's because they want someone to love. And they want to feel the love being reciprocated. They want to be loved in return.
When Michael was 11 years old, the Jackson 5 hit the big time. They had 4 singles released, and all of them went to #1. The family moved to California, to a large gated compound in Encino, in the hills above the San Fernando Valley. Michael Jackson would live in the family home for the next 17 years, building up quite a menagerie.
He had hamsters, and he had rats, and he had lizards, and everything you could think of. He had it. He had quite a few rats. I think his first one, I recall it being a little white mouse that he had.
Michael loved his pets and took any opportunity to play practical jokes on his brothers and sisters.
He would pull it out of his pocket, and I would scream every single time. It's like, oh, what are you doing with that in the restaurant?
The Jackson 5 were working 15 hours a day and late into the night. Between seemingly endless rehearsals, Michael was spending time with his animals.
I think it was sort of a diversion from music, because the music was always there. And aside from the music, when you're not being musical most of the day, then you can turn to your animals and play outside of your family. It's something else.
In 1972, at the age of 14, one of Michael's most famous songs, Ben, about a boy and his pet rat, was released. The song would be the first of 13 solo #1 hits. At one time, Michael had up to 30 pet rats living in his bedroom.
He had such a connection with his little rats that I wasn't a big fan of. Not the rats, no.
The rats were only the beginning. Soon, Michael would have a menagerie that would make a zookeeper jealous.
Michael had boa constrictors and pythons, and we connected with them. We had a love for them, and my mother would say, you know, you can't be that friendly with them because you never know what the animals are going to do, which in fact she was right, because sometimes the snakes, you know, if we leave them out too long, a parrot's missing.
Because he was an extreme character, I think he would have identified with extreme species and exotic animals. I think he would have perhaps seen himself as exotic and extreme in some way.
At 21, Michael's solo career was taking off, and his first solo album, Off the Wall, became one of the world's best-selling albums. Wherever Michael went, he was quickly mobbed by fans.
Today, the Jacksons travel first class. Fame makes them vulnerable. On the road, theirs is a life of back doors and security guards, quick entries and exits.
With fame came pain. At the time, Michael described himself as being one of the loneliest people in the world.
I'm most comfortable on stage than any place in the world
Being around, everyday people and stuff, I feel strange. I do.
Shy?
Yeah.
Michael's quiet now. When he was younger, he wasn't that quiet. But I don't know. I think the stage might have done that to him. Because wherever he go, everybody's coming out to see Michael Jackson, want to look at him and see what he looks like. And he said he feels like an animal in a cage.